Hey, it's John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and it's The Entrepreneurial You, the show for dedicated and passionate Caribbean entrepreneurs seeking daily inspiration, brought to you by author, speaker, and award-winning entrepreneur Heneka Watkis-Porter. You must be prepared to ignite.
Greetings to all of you. How are you doing? So, of course, it is time, as you can tell, for another episode of the Entrepreneurial You podcast, hosted, of course, by yours truly, Heneka Watkis-Porter. A very special welcome to you if you're joining me for the very first time. And let me shout you out to those that are just joining me. You guys are so awesome. You rock. I appreciate you. Welcome. Thank you. Now, last week, I had the pleasure of chatting with Shiloh Johnson. And Shiloh is really the brilliant CEO and mastermind behind compliance. Now, this week, we have another amazing guest, and she is the co-founder. She's an expert with valuable insights to share on building and growing successful businesses. But of course, you know, gratitude is a must. So let me say thank you to our incredible sponsor, the Jamaica Stock Exchange, for their unwavering support to this program.
We needed to raise capital, but our experience with local financial institutions was that they were cautious and slow to act, and interest rates were far too high. We had real concerns about financing our business through outside equity investors and the possibility of interference. Could we get a fair valuation for our business? We had our own ideas about the business and its value. Should I go the traditional route of bank financing, or should I try the Jamaica Stock Exchange? So we made a call and experienced transformation of our business through conversations. I'm John Mahfood, CEO of Jamaican Teas, and we're listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Give us a call today at 876-967-3271 to begin your transformation through conversation. We want to see your company listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Thank you so much to the JSE. With that said, let's dive right in and meet our guest. Are you excited? Let's do this. Tanis Jorge is my guest today, and she's a serial tech entrepreneur and author of the Co-Founders Handbook and founder of the Co-Founders Hub. With over 20 years of building startups, including one tech unicorn, Tanis is bringing her expertise and experience to founders looking to build and grow a successful business and co-founder partnership. Welcome, Tanis. Such a pleasure to have you.
Hi, Heneka. Nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's do this. Let me ask you first and foremost, what do you know, if anything, about Jamaican culture?
You know what? Not enough. Let's put it that way. Not enough. It's somewhere I'm desperate to go to. So unfortunately, I haven't yet. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, you know, you have to fix that, right?
I do. Very much so. Now that I have a contact there, It makes it much better. Sometimes it's better to travel to places when you know somebody. So there we go.
Yeah.
We're connected.
Yes, Tanis, that is cool. And I'm looking forward to hosting you, you know? So let's do this. All right. So we're going to be talking about the art of building a successful co-founder partnership. So in this episode, let me just go again and share with my listeners what they can expect. I'm sitting down with serial tech entrepreneur and author Tanis Jorge, as we're going to be discussing the key factors that contribute to building a successful co-founder partnership. As you would have heard, Tanis has over 20 years of experience in building startups, and of course, she has this unicorn under her belt. She's going to share insight on how to navigate the highs and the lows of working with a co-founder. So communication, shared values, trust, and all of those things, the pitfalls that can arise and how to avoid them. So get your popcorn. Yeah, we do popcorn for podcasts. I don't know. So whether you're a first-time founder or seasoned entrepreneur, this episode is going to deliver with, you know, valuable advice on how to cultivate this strong and productive co-founder partnership. So let's talk about your journey, Tanis, as a serial tech entrepreneur, and how did you really get started in the industry?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess to start off, my origin story begins in high school. It was in high school that I actually met who would end up being my longtime co-founder and business partner in 4 startups that we started down the road. So Stephen and I shared, we had lockers beside each other in high school. And over the course of 5 years, we really built an incredible friendship. And we, we did school projects together and we really became best friends. And so I would say that it was there that we built that foundation for a strong partnership, because little did we know as we did projects together that we were actually learning how each other works and learning how to complement one another, and it ended up really serving us down the road. So after high school, both he and I chose not to do the college and university route. I don't know that we were really scholastic. We were in school more to socialize and have fun and enjoy. So after high school, we pretty much jumped straight into our very first venture. Stephen came to me with an idea, and it was in the identity verification space and the identity credit report space. Although I wasn't really interested in the subject matter, I was actually really excited to do a project with him ultimately. And so we started this partnership, and basically what progressed from there is every 3 years, we managed to build and successfully exit through an acquisition, a company that we had built. And over 10 years, 3 companies took us right through our 20s. And at the end of that, we kind of shook hands and said, well, that was an incredible ride and that was a lot of fun. I decided to start a family. But entrepreneurship's I always joke, is kind of like the mob. Just when you think you're out, it sucks you back in.
Oh, absolutely. I'm in awe of your story, Tanis. That's an incredibly beautiful journey. And I have noticed that you have not followed the traditional route of, okay, go to school, get a great education, university, then you're going to come out with a great job so that you can, be there and be what they call it, promoted, and and then you retire and all of that stuff. Like none of that. You decided to do other than that. Why though?
That's a great question. So, I think there's a few different things. So, I actually would accredit to my family and my upbringing. My parents were entrepreneurs. In many ways, my dad, interestingly, he in the 70s or 60s, 70s, he had a door-to-door vacuum cleaner sales business. So you can imagine that kind of industry. But through that, he really learned the art of sales and the art of success principles. And so I grew up with that. My dad constantly telling me, hey, everything is just a numbers game. Just work hard and eventually you'll succeed. And they really just promoted that lifestyle. And so that was really modeled to me. And I saw often most of the successful people in my circles and even in school, my friends in school, their parents were not necessarily, academic. They were maybe in development, construction, or they had, but all the line through it all is they were all entrepreneurs. And so to me, I really saw that as an avenue. I was, like I said before, I wasn't scholastic in school. I didn't really fit the mold of a person who cared or excelled in that traditional education system. So I knew, though, I was creative and I had grit and I had a work ethic, and I just needed that one topic, that one thing that I could put my energy into. And so, it was never even something to consider.
Wow, that's an interesting journey. And I mean, children live what they learn, and the fact that you were surrounded by that, incredible. Mm-hmm. All right. So you've mentioned that you've co-founded 4 startups with your co-founder.
Yeah.
Which means that, that's a lot of working together with somebody over time. You would have known him from high school, as you mentioned, but still you would have had to make some adjustments and learn about yourself, learn about him. Over time. What was that process like? What are some of the things that you want to highlight from that journey?
Yeah, for sure. And, it's an evolving relationship, and the co-founder partnership is actually very intimate, I say, because it incorporates all aspects of your life. So it incorporates your professional life, your personal life, your spiritual life, your emotional life. It is involved in everything. So I think when people go into a business partnership, they sometimes aren't prepared for that. And there really needs to be almost a commingling of those things, because all those pieces of a person's life affect your business, right? So if you're having, issues at home personally, whether it's financially or whatever, you will take that into your work with you. And so your co-founder needs to understand what's going on in the background, so that they can better understand why you're making decisions the way you are. So that was one of the key things. I mentioned in the beginning there that we had built 3 businesses over 10 years, but after that was completed, I had 2 kids under 2, and that's when we started Truly You. That was in 2011, and we built that company together. In 2021, it hit a valuation of $1.65 billion. And
unicorn.
Yes, it hit that status. And, it was interesting because I can say in every single company that we built together, our experience was always a little bit different, because you're in different phases of your life, and the business itself is different every single time. So you're learning your skills, and you have to be malleable, and you have to be able to communicate. Of course, as I was doing all of these businesses with Stephen, I actually wasn't paying attention to our partnership, ironically. And I think we were very fortunate. We had such a great friendship beforehand, because I find typically if you're not intentional about your partnership, it more frequently goes sideways. So I think we were very lucky that we got through that. And eventually, as I was writing the book, I was able to reflect on why we succeeded over those years, even though we weren't being intentional. And then, of course, through interviewing other founders, I was able to even more better understand why partnerships fail and why some of them succeed.
Mm-hmm. So it takes a level of, what I'm picking up is for you to be emotionally intelligent. Mm-hmm. And to be aware and to not take things personally sometimes, and that kind of an understanding and empathy on both sides. How would you encourage persons who are looking to go into this co-founder relationship? What are some of the things that you'd encourage them to look for?
Yeah. So the first thing that I came to realize is that, I mean, if I have the chance to meet somebody before they've started a partnership, I feel like they have an incredible opportunity there, because the right co-founder begins obviously in the very beginning. And then when people ask, what kind of co-founder should I look for? Mm-hmm. The first thing I tell them to do is look at themselves first and do a deep dive into who you are as a person and what you bring to the table, and what are your goals, and what are your needs, what are your wants. All these things really will help you determine who it is that you need on the other side. So we created at the Co-Founders Hub a self-assessment, and it's a series of questions that really promote reflection. Oftentimes, people, when they're looking for somebody, they go for what I call the obvious traits. That is, I'm starting a tech company, I have a business idea, I'm not a tech founder, so I need an engineer. That's automatically what I need. Or if you're starting a restaurant and you have this great idea for a restaurant and you're like, well, I need a chef. Those are the obvious things, but I have learned that there's actually a bunch of other factors that are just, if not more important to consider when you're looking for a co-founder. So those are some of the important pieces to do, that is really to look at yourself and determine my personality style. Am I a pessimist or an optimist? Am I detail oriented or high level? What life stage am I in? What is my family life right now? Can I put 80 hours into this startup right now? Or do I need somebody else who can? Or am I able to, but I need somebody else to come in with a more specific expertise? There's so many questions to ask that really can hone in on what are those important factors. And everybody's going to be different. So that's why we kind of created this assessment with real reflection questions, so that people can really customize and tailor their own individual circumstance. So self-reflection first is really, really important.
Absolutely. So some of those common mistakes that founders are making when starting a business, just share some of those and how they can be avoided in your mind, in your opinion.
Yeah. So the first one that I think would come to mind is, so let's say we're all sitting around the fire and we're brainstorming ideas, and somebody comes up with an idea for a business and their friends are there beside them and they're like, yeah, that's a great idea. And they add to the business idea and then they talk about it. And then maybe over the next coming weeks and months, they continue to talk about this idea with their friend. And what ends up happening statistically, 35% of the time, people just naturally fall into a partnership with the person that they initially talked it over with. And what I've come to realize is that not everybody's cut out for the entrepreneurship journey, and not everybody's cut out to be partners together. And so you feel this sense of obligation. You know, I've been talking about this business with my friends, but when you look at them as an entrepreneur, or even you look at yourself as an entrepreneur and you go, man, I don't know that I have the skills, the time, the capability to undertake this partnership, but I feel obligated because we were talking about it together. And so I would say one of the first mistakes many people make is that they just jump into it with the first person that they talked. And I would say this is the time to possibly really determine, is it the right partner? And if not, how can I bring them along on this journey without making them a partner, still reward them and thank them for their contribution, but help them to recognize this might not be the avenue that they want to go long term. So that would be one mistake that I do see frequently.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other you want to highlight as you've observed over the years?
Yeah. And then the other thing that I think people often do when they're starting a partnership is they wing it. They come in and they don't put anything on paper. They just do it with a handshake, and they have these expectations of one another, of what roles they're going to play in the business. And then what ends up happening sometimes is that people don't fulfill those expectations that ultimately maybe were not communicated or solidified in a contract. And so resentment, mistrust, those sort of things can fall into play. So another thing that we created at the Co-Founders Hub is something called Discovery Session. And this is about 120 questions and that we recommend people have with their business partner to really, sidestep these really difficult conversations and to really clarify what are the expectations of this partnership. Questions like, how often are we going to work from home? Or is it okay if our spouses or our children work in the business? These are really like potentially emotionally charged questions. And we really recommend that people, have these conversations ahead of time. Questions like, what is our equity split? When are we going to draw a salary? Like, are you going to start pulling from your capital now to pull a salary, or do you need to wait a year, 2 years to actually take a salary? I know for Stephen and I, our first 3 businesses, we never took a salary. Fortunately, we had income from other areas, but we never took a salary, and we scraped through and we got it. We got through it, but and that was partly because we were always in the early stages of our businesses and we didn't have a lot of revenue to pull from. So if we didn't have that conversation and we didn't know that, then there was a possibility that there would be resentment. So there's a lot of questions that, again, co-founders need to talk about ahead of time so that they aren't surprised down the road.
All right. So Tanis, what I want us to do now is spend some time, a little more time on the book, right? The Co-Founders Handbook, right? Yes. I mean, I have not read it, so I'm sure they're going to send me a copy. Uh-huh. But what I want to know is, why were you inspired to write the book? Why did you think you need to write it, first of all? And what can the readers expect to learn from it in a very specific way? Because we've been talking a lot about, the relationship, co-founders relationship, and what to expect and stuff. But just generally in terms of the book, or more specifically in terms of the book, what can readers expect to learn? Yeah,
for sure. So, goodness. So when I was building Trulio, I would often get asked by founders to advise them on how we had a great partnership over all these years. And as I began to talk to these founders in these sometimes large businesses and startups that were quickly flourishing, I realized that a lot of them were silently suffering, is what the term that I use. Because when you're in a partnership, it can be very isolating if you're having issues with your co-founders. And that's because oftentimes you can't always talk to your investors, you can't talk to your employees, sometimes you can't even talk to your family because they're going to be biased and they actually don't know all the inner workings of the business. And sometimes their advice and their opinions kind of fall flat when you know that they don't truly know the circumstances inside the business. So I realized there were very few, if any at all, resources for co-founders, from co-founders, by co-founders. So everything in the book really comes from the experiences and the advice and the wisdom of actual people who have been in the trenches. Some of the other books out there they're amazing, but they're academic based. They're from mediators or professionals, coaches, people who have worked with partnerships. But I really wanted to bring that perspective and that angle that came from people who've been there before, whether they've succeeded or whether they failed. And the failed partnerships I found were the best ones to discuss because failure has such a great learning lesson to it. And so I was able to interview tons of founders in all different industries. And this advice comes in. So the book takes you from how to find a co-founder, how to vet them, how to formalize through contracts that partnership. Then it takes you through ways to build and strengthen that partnership as you're in it, how to be intentional, how to really buy into your partnership and make sure that it's the strongest part of your business. And then lastly, we talk about struggles, how to handle conflict, disagreements, tough topics such as if you find your co-founder stealing from you or falsifying anything. So how to exit a partnership. So it takes you through the entire journey. So anyone in a partnership can actually glean something from the book. And it really goes through all of that. And I felt that co-founders really needed this resource that they could read into and put a spotlight on their partnership.
Sounds excellent. Sounds like an excellent book. So what I want to find out, I want you to tell me about a time, Tanis, when you would have had a disagreement with your co-founder. Let's walk through one of those moments. How was it resolved? What did it feel like? What did it feel like? What was the emotions behind it? Stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let me think. So let's talk about maybe our time in Trulio, our last company. One thing that I found fascinating as I was going through that business is we had a lot more, I wouldn't say conflict, but we had a lot more strain within our partnership. And upon reflection, I was looking back, why was it so different this fourth time? What was so different about our partnership, about the business that really changed our dynamic in many ways? And what I realized was it was life stage. So as I mentioned before, when I started Trulio, our last company, I had 2 kids under 2. So in all my previous businesses, I had no kids. Neither did Stephen. So we were just able to commit our lives to our businesses and full-fledged, and there was nothing different. In Trulio, I had 2 kids, and I was really balancing family and work. And for me, I ended up realizing that was a balance that I wasn't able to undertake effectively. I felt like I was 50% in both parts of my life. And it was very frustrating because I'm a 100% kind of person. I love to just excel at everything that I do. And so that was a really frustrating time for me. And just with exhaustion, with family, and just all the responsibilities from starting a major startup and a Silicon Valley funded company and all these things on one side of my life, and then a family on the other. It put a lot of strain on our partnership. And for the first time, I wasn't able to be 100% committed in the business. And that really was a reflection that reflected into our partnership. And I think we couldn't in the beginning really put our finger on why were we struggling. And I think we were used to how we worked before. And then now the dynamic changed and we were struggling in that. And it took about 2-3 years before we finally recognized that we were just pulling apart in so many ways. And we had this major conversation and we started, and I had to really go deep and go, where should I be in this business? And you talked a little bit about, the importance of being communicating and having this. And I think there's also a level of maturity that people have to bring into partnership and be willing to look at, where you fall short in the partnership and be honest and authentic and vulnerable and say, yeah, I'm falling short here and I need your help. And so we had that conversation and we really determined that, for me, that I wasn't able to be both sides. So we planned my exit. And that was a key piece for us, is to say, okay, I realized I can't be 100%, but we need somebody to be 100%. So we planned for, a year, 18 months down the road for me to be able to exit out of the day-to-day at Truly You, remain on the board, which I did over the course of the next three years. But we planned for that. And sometimes that's the case. And partners have to realize that oftentimes the partnership will end, whether it's, in a bad way, in a good way, whatever it is. So we planned for that. And that was a key piece for us.
All right. And how has the relationship been since that time?
Yeah. You know what? It's great. Steve and I are very good friends still.
Yes.
We're very fortunate. We were able to work through, again, those. And one of the things that I am so passionate about is helping people to understand that the co-founder partnership can be one of the most incredible relationships you'll have in your life. Very few times do you get to really be your true self, be authentic, be vulnerable, share life experiences, outside of maybe a spouse and children and family. The co-founder partnership has the potential to be one of the most impactful relationships you have in your life. And done correctly, it's a gem. It's priceless. It's something that you will always look back on and be like, this is amazing. So this is why I really have put this book out and these tools at the Co-Founders Hub, so that we can really build into this relationship, because it's been such a gift for me. And I know it is for so many others that I've talked to, or they say my co-founder is, my best friend, or they're my confidant, they're my rock. And they mean so much to me, me and to my family and my life. And so when I hear that, I'm so excited about that. And I really hope that for everybody.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the Co-Founders Hub. Is it virtual? Is it, physical space? How is it?
Yeah. So right now we are just about to launch. We are finalizing all the products and finalizing everything. So the Co-Founders Hub is a platform for co-founders to come in to get support and the resources they need to build their strong partnership. So we have tools that they can work on for yourself or for your partnership. We have what we call the 90-day co-founder challenge, which is a series of 2 emails every week. And what these emails do is they help you be intentional with your partnership. So it'll give you little prods and little thinking points to how can you strengthen that partnership on a weekly basis. And the goal in this is by the end of it is that you really understand and you see the impact of building into your partnership and how that even reflects into your business. So we have that. And then we are just starting events, which allow people to meet co-founders. We'll have an online platform that allows people to find a co-founder if you're looking for them. And then events throughout the US and Canada that, again, help you strengthen your partnership with your co-founder, teach you communication skills, teach you ways to sort of equalize your vision together so that you're on the same page and your goals are equally aligned, where you can have difficult conversations and still know how to come out the other side progressively. So the Co-Founders Hub is that space for everybody who's a partner.
Okay. And so it's open to not just persons in the US, but it's available.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And I'm sure you're going to tell us how to get there. But before we do that, just kind of bring it home to us as we are about to wrap.
Yeah.
Persons who are thinking about going into a partnership with, a co-founder, they have a startup they're putting together, and they need that person to help them to make it a reality. How would you advise them right now? What would you say to them?
Yeah. So the first thing I say to people who say they are looking for a co-founder, I say, great, but keep going in your business now. So finding the right co-founder can take time. It does take up a lot of time as well. So I really don't want people to put that vision that they have in their minds for a business. I have seen people who have started a business, have been looking for a co-founder, and at the same time built their business, only to discover that, hey, I was actually able to get this business up and going on my own, and either decide, A, I don't need a co-founder anymore, or B, you know what? Because I've built a substantial enough foundation, when I go into a partnership, my equity position is going to be higher because I've already built, I can sort of negotiate a higher equity position because I'm here. So it's self-serving in a lot of ways as well. So the first thing I tell people is don't stop building your business, keep going. So that's number one. Yeah. Number two, when you meet somebody who you think is a candidate, have your mind open to their suggestions. So another thing that I see happen sometimes is people come in with an idea for their business and they're so stuck on how it'll be run, how it'll be started, how it'll be executed and scaled, that when they meet their co-founder, they don't leave room for that person to be creative within that model as well. And they feel like, oh, I'm just coming in as your employee in some ways. So you have to understand that a co-founder partnership is there's a lot of give and take. You got to be able to let your partner be part of that. So when you come in and you're looking for somebody, leave space for their ideas. Leave space for them to say, hey, I see myself in this, and this is what I bring to the table. So that would be another thing that I would definitely recommend people consider.
Well, I see how passionate you are about this topic here.
Yes, for sure.
You've lived it, right?
That's right.
You know exactly what you're talking about, Tanis.
Yeah.
And now we've talked about a lot of things. We want to know where to get the book. We want to know how to connect with Co-Founders Hub. We want to know all these things. So go right away.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, perfect. So you can get the book in audio format. You can get it in ebook and paperback, all on any major book platform. Specifically, Amazon obviously is the easiest one. So you can get the book there. It's available. And we also have the Co-Founders Hub, which is ready to go, www.thecofoundershub.com. And again, you can go in there and see there's access to the products and just staying informed. All of our social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of these different platforms as well. You can follow us at the Co-Founders Hub. Or if you're more specific, want to follow me directly at Tanis Jorge, TANISJORGE. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn as well, giving advice on entrepreneurship and co-founder partnerships and all the things in between.
All right. Sounds excellent, Tanis. You have been such a delight, actually.
Awesome. Thank you.
To be on the show today. I hear the passion. I see the passion as I'm looking at you.
Thank you.
And, congrats with all that you've been able to accomplish. I mean, we didn't get into the text, the startup phase and all of those things.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to zone in on the whole partnership aspect. But big congrats to all that you've accomplished, and
Thank you.
to start something that has become a unicorn. Wow, that is what is termed a unicorn. That is amazing. For those who probably don't know and they're hearing the term for the very first time, in your words, describe somebody who a business that is described as a unicorn.
So a unicorn is any company that has reached a valuation of over $1 billion. So 1 billion, they call that a unicorn.
Yeah, awesome sauce. And the fact is, this is 1 billion in US dollars, people.
Yeah.
Hello.
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 So multiply that by 154, 55, 56 in Jamaican terms, and you see the picture, right? All right.
That's right.
Tanis Jorge has been my guest. She's the founder. She's been a co-founder for many years. She's written the book with her co-founder's experience. She's shared that experience with us. The co-founder's handbook is what we've been talking about as well. And she's just amazing. person, amazing human being with a wonderful spirit. So thank you for taking the time to share with us, Tanis. And for those who listened in, who joined us today, thank you so much.
Thanks, Heneka.
All right. And I want to say again to my peak performers, I started telling you thanks. But again, I really want to express my gratitude for you, to you as you tune into this episode. You're here week after week. And if you're just coming to me for the very first time, that's fine. I welcome you, as I mentioned earlier. But I trust that you found Tanis's experience and insights intriguing, informative, and insightful. So we'd love to hear your thoughts as we've concluded this episode. Which part of it for you stood out? What resonated with you the most? I just liked, when Tanis shared about the relationship and the strain and the different life stages that she was at vis-a-vis her co-founder and the strain that they started to experience as a result of that. So what it meant is that they had to be self-aware, they had to be emotionally intelligent and be real and true to themselves, and honest to, self-introspect, self-reflect, to know what is behind all of this and to make a decision. She planned her exit, because she's been would have been an integral part of her co-founder's life. So she, and this now current company, truly, so she had to indeed plan her exit. Interesting and insightful, as I mentioned. Please, I want to hear these feedback from you. I want you to let you know that your thoughts are valued, your feedback is valued. I'm really looking forward to it. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your preferred app to stay up to date with future episodes. For all things podcasting, visit HenekaWatkis-Porter.com. Thank you for listening, and we will be back with another episode next week, same place, same time. According to the scriptures is what I normally end with, and today is no different. But let him ask in faith with no doubting. For the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. James 1 verse 6. Walk good.